Mary 2 o'clock. Should be a great show on tap. We're going to talk to Mike Griffith from DogNation.com, AJC, in just a couple minutes. Nick Kelly from AL.com. At the bottom of the hour, we'll get his thoughts on Alabama's big loss to Florida State. Later on in the program, Dimitri Ravenos will join us from SEC Unfiltered. My partner, Landrum Roberts, still trying to get all the cords and everything straightened out. No YouTube today. Just want to go ahead and announce that. We've had some video camera issues, but as always, you can listen to the show and go to the Jox app, and you can listen to us each and every day.
Yeah, I feel like people are coming by like we're awaiting a funeral. This is almost like a visitation, or people are going to be coming by to pay their respects.
Oh, to Conrad?
To Conrad and to the program that is in Alabama. I was doing a show this morning, a show out in Arkansas, and, man, I forgot how much people really bask in delight of Alabama finding a lack of success on the football field. But that seems to be where everybody is. Everybody's just curious about Kalen DeBoer and his future. Imagine that.
And speaking about his future, I tweeted this out about 45 minutes ago, and this is very interesting that we've already got Vegas chiming in, and they've already got a list compiled of 22 potential replacements for Kalen DeBoer. That's right. 22 are listed on the Vegas board right now potentially, and it's very, very interesting to see the number one name on that list, and it's Tommy Rees. He has the best odds of becoming the next head coach at the University of Alabama. I would not have put my money on that, nor will I.
Touchdown Tommy Rees?
Touchdown Tommy Rees. 3-1 odds at becoming the next Alabama head coach, followed by Glenn Schumann at 4-1. Lane Kiffin 5-1. Kenny Dillingham 7-1. Deion Sanders 8-1.
That ain't no bull jump, baby.
Jamarcus Shepard and Sean Deion Hamilton come in next best odds at 10-1. Jimbo Fisher 12-1. D'Amico Ryans and John Gruden at 14-1. I'm just going down the list here. And Nick Saban is 33-1 odds at becoming the next Alabama head coach. Dan Lanning 40-1. Ryan Day 40-1. Dabo Sweeney 50-1. Kirby 50-1. And Steve Sarkisian 50-1. So they've got 22 names on the board at potentially who could replace Nick Saban, Kalen DeBoer at Alabama.
You got through 11 names on that list, and then I was distracted by what just walked through the door. But, yeah, it was an interesting day yesterday for sure. But some of those names, let's just play it out.
Is that who I think it is at the top of that list?
If you're Greg Byrne,
Tommy
hey,
Rees.
Conrad, how are you? But if you're Greg Byrne, do you let Lane Kiffin go again?
No. No, you do not.
Because Lane Kiffin, he wants that job. He would take that job.
I think yes.
You as an Ole Miss Rebel sympathizer, you agree that he would walk to Tuscaloosa.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, if you're giving me the choice of Tommy Rees, Glenn Schumann, Lane Kiffin, Kenny Dillingham, or Deion Sanders,
You got to go with what you know.
I'm going Lane Kiffin. Are you kidding me? All day long. But anyway, as we all know, this list is not real. I mean,
No.
It is real because it's in Vegas, and if you want to throw some money on that, sure, go ahead.
Well, there's probably somebody out there we're not hearing about that wants that job. Is Lincoln Riley happy?
But as I posted yesterday, and we talked about incessantly on the show, I know a lot of you may not have had an opportunity to listen to the show yesterday because you were taking the day off, but you're back at work today and you're getting back in your routine. But Alabama would owe him $69.3 million.
It's a lot of chatter.
Yeah. And it would be paid monthly installments. So Alabama does not have that money. And despite Alabama being one of the blue bloods, there's not a lot of oil wells in West Alabama.
No, you might be able to tap into some natural gas at some point somewhere, but coal, I know that's been big in certain parts of Alabama. But
yeah.
No, you're right. And even pre-NIL and transfer portal and house settlement.
That would have been tough to digest, but even now.
That's a ton of money, but even now, you can't do it.
No.
There's no way you can do it.
So we'll talk to Mike Griffith coming up. Conrad is here on location. As I mentioned, no YouTube today. Apologize for that. We just have a switcher issue with our video camera, so you're just going to have the audio today. But Conrad, that's why you need to come by the restaurant.
That's right. You get to look at this.
And Molly, would you like to describe what we are seeing right now?
You are precious.
It's a work of art, Pat.
Thanks.
You are absolutely
beautiful.
precious.
So what have you done?
Molly,
to
you did
Conrad?
so good.
Thank
on
you.
this.
It's one of my finer works. I think my 5th grade art teacher would be really proud of me. So basically, one side of his face is gold, and the other side of his face is garnet. And it looks spectacular, you guys. Put it in a museum, put him on the cover of Vogue. I put some glitter on him. I tried to get it all up in his beard. I
Yes.
didn't put any on his ears because I didn't want to get all in y'all's headphones.
Thank you. Very smart.
We
of you,
did think
Molly.
about that, though. But I was like, that might not be a good idea. And the paint can told me to avoid the eyes and the lip area, so I did avoid that. But the rest of his face is just sparkle-fied. It looks
Based
great.
on the things that he's put in his mouth, I think you would have been fine if
Well,
he
I
ingested
guess
a little
that's
bit
I
of
probably
it.
would have been okay.
Yeah.
So
I'm
what
just
kinda-
worried my wife is going to think that I made a stop somewhere on the way home with the amount of glitter that's going to be on me.
Yeah.
That's my concern.
I don't want to stereotype, but I was going to list maybe a couple of places that
Yes.
you would look normal.
Doesn't he look so good, though?
He looks great.
Thank
he looks
you.
great.
Thank
you.
I saw something similar, not the same color scheme, when Pat and I were cruising around downtown Atlanta for SEC Media Days.
Yeah, we saw a lot of that.
Yeah.
Big time.
Yeah, so because I had to go to the station for Molly to apply this before I came back here to the restaurant, and I immediately pulled up to a red light there, that intersection outside of the station, and I 100% got some weird looks from the truck that pulled up next to me.
Oh, I bet.
They were definitely.
I bet.
They did more than a double take.
Did they give a little whistle or maybe a cat call at you?
No, fortunately not. Fortunately not. But it was just kind of that look of what the heck is going on with that guy. But
Yeah.
this is what you get when you talk smack and a bunch of 18 to 22-year-olds can't back it up for you.
Well, 18 to 24.
There you
go.
go.
That's
25.
Well, we're going to talk to Mike Griffith from Dog Nation, and let's go now on the Higginbotham hotline. Mike, let's start with how shocked were you sitting in the press box there in Athens, Georgia, and seeing what was happening in Tallahassee?
Yeah, I was surprised. I was, but, in hindsight now, I guess I shouldn't be. Guys, I got to thinking, I don't know if y'all play poker or not, but if somebody came along to me and took my ace, my king, and my jack, my hand wouldn't be as good. And as I watched Justice Haynes rumble for over 100 yards at Michigan and Julian Sayin beat Texas and Caleb Downs play like an All-American, I realized these are Alabama's best players, and they're somewhere else. And that didn't happen when Nick Saban was head coach. They weren't getting players bought out from under him. So when we say that Kalen DeBoer doesn't have the same hand dealt to him that Nick Saban did, we mean that in more ways than one. I'm not saying that's the only issue, but let's just start right there and ask ourselves, if we took the best quarterback, running back, and defensive player off of any team, how good would they be?
Yeah, it's a really good point, Mike, and a good question. When you look at Kalen DeBoer now that we are, 14 games into his tenure at Alabama, you've covered this program. You were raised in this state. You're born in this state. You're very familiar with what works and who it works with down at that university. Kalen DeBoer, when you think about his personality and people say, well, maybe it's not a good fit, what is the prototypical fit at Alabama running that football program as a head coach, in your opinion?
Well, it depends on the era. I mean, there was a time when Nick Saban was the right fit, but obviously he didn't win a title his last 3 years, and we were talking about how you can't coach these kids this way anymore. And Kirby Smart and Nick have made comments about the way kids want to be coached now, right? I mean, I think we've heard that if you take, Ryan Williams' stuffed animal away from him, what's he going to be like? I mean, how do you coach kids nowadays? And that is an issue, not just at Al, that's everywhere. Coaching has changed. It's changed in the classrooms. I don't know if Kalen DeBoer's style doesn't fit or if he just doesn't have the marquee players, or if, the unintended consequence of NIL is players having money to spend and not hanging out as much around the football building. I don't think it's just at Alabama. I'll say this. I think you played a very inspired program that had been licking its chops for a long time with an opportunity to erase a lot of wrongs in one afternoon, and a quarterback that frankly was better than your quarterback. He played a pretty good playmaking quarterback, and yet still you got into their territory 7 times. You just didn't finish. And first-year offensive coordinator, I don't know if maybe Nick Sheridan wasn't so bad. I think he's a pretty good coach, actually. You've kind of upset the apple cart in the coaching offices a little bit. Maybe you're not exactly sure what you've got. Maybe your quarterback's a little tentative in his first real legitimate start, and the other team's fired up. So, it's 1 week. We're going to find out how close this team is when they play Wisconsin and Georgia. There's still time left for DeBoer and his team to show that they really did draw closer, that they really do have a good chemistry, and that even with their best players being bought up by the Big Ten at Michigan and Ohio State, that they can win with those guys' backups. Let Ohio State and Michigan, take the best players out of Alabama because, for whatever reason, Alabama can't pony up enough money to keep their best players.
So, Mike, let me ask you about the other team on the other side of the state, and Auburn, as they started off their season with that win over Baylor, and doesn't get much better than that if you're an Auburn fan, right, Mike? You get to beat Baylor on Friday, and then you get to sit back on Saturday and watch your rival get demolished by Florida State. So what were your takeaways from that big win over Baylor? Are you a believer in Auburn now, or do you still need to see a little something more from Hugh Freeze and the Tigers?
Well, I mean, it's a really big win. We just talked about Alabama going on the road against a difficult opponent that was fired up. And, in Baylor, that was a big game for Baylor. And Dave Aranda, we're familiar with him. He was the LSU defensive coordinator. I mean, he's a mastermind. Hugh Freeze matched wits with one of the best. And we know that Hugh's been one of the best, at the peak of his career. So there's a lot to be excited about, but there is a big question. And that is, can Jackson Arnold sustain a 100-yard rushing clip and make it through an SEC season? And I know he ran it smart, but that's a lot of yards to lean on your quarterback for. I'd say the same thing about Gunnar Stockton's performance at Georgia. I mean, you're not going to win a lot of games against SEC defenses with your quarterback running the ball like that, and unless his name's Lenore Sellers or Cam Newton. Let's just be honest. Auburn's got work to do. We'll find out a lot more about them when they go to Oklahoma, but that's a great start. It's promising. It's money well spent. That's a program went out, spent some money in the portal, and the investment paid off. And more and more, I mean, guys, the theme is that you get what you pay for. I mean, look, Georgia didn't have a sack against Marshall, and the defensive end that left their program had 2 sacks for Missouri. I mean, this is a money game. We don't like it, but we gotta quit dancing around the truth. And while we're at it, we've got to ask what Alabama's paying Nick Saban $500,000 to advise. I mean, if you're going to pay Nick Saban $500,000 a year, what are you paying him for? That's valuable NIL money. Or at least have him come to the office and help this defensive coordinator out, because Florida State only ran 7 or 8 plays by my math, and you got problems adjusting. So all I'm saying is, look, Nick Saban was a great coach. He deserves everything that he got. But right now you're paying him $500,000 to be an advisor, and I want to know what he's advising. If I'm in charge, if I'm the boss that's writing the check, I'm going to say, you know what, Nick, we're gonna take you off the fundraising here for a minute. Can you come into the office and take a little tape with us and maybe help us out a little bit for this $500,000 we're paying you a year?
That is Mike Griffith from the AJC, DogNation.com. We're going to run to our first quick break. When we come back, we're going to finish up with Mike and get his thoughts on the rest of the Southeastern Conference. This is Three Man Front live from Social Taco on Jox. It is 10:18. Welcome back to Three Man Front, live from Social Taco. Let's continue our conversation with AJCDogNation.com's Mike Griffith. So, Mike, I wanted to ask you, moving forward, where's more concern in Mike Griffith's eyes? Is it what's going on in Tuscaloosa or Arch Manning leading the Texas Longhorns?
Well, Texas has a championship defense. I mean, they think they held Ohio State to 11 first downs and just over 200 yards. So that dog's going to hunt. Texas isn't going anywhere. They're still the favorite to win the SEC according to DraftKings.com for a reason. Texas 1 of 5 on fourth down conversions. We talked about the what ifs with Alabama and 7 trips into Florida State territory and not enough points. Well, Texas goes 1 of 5 on fourth downs and gets stopped at the goal line. I mean, that's on a 1-yard sneak. So, you're really only a couple plays away for either one of those programs turning the momentum and winning their games. So let's not get too carried away. While there are obvious things we could point out in both programs, I think Arch Manning is legit. I think he's the real deal. I've seen some good things from him. He was tentative. Largely because of Caleb Downs. If you did some film study on it, you'd see, Downs confused him with some of the things he was doing with the ways he was lining up and duping him into, thinking he was in one coverage and then, turned out that Ohio State was in another. So, look, Caleb Downs was the best player in the SEC. And now best defensive player. And now he's the best defensive player in the Big Ten. And you just can't pretend like that's not a factor in games. So, Arch did make some bad throws and look tight. He wasn't confident. I put that on the coaches. I put that on Sark for not having them prepared. Everybody knew this moment was coming. It's not like Arch Manning hasn't been in the spotlight before. So I'm going to put that on the coaches for not having him prepared for the moment. Steve's got a really good defense there at Texas that he gets to put Arch up against every day to have him ready for those kind of moments, and he didn't have his quarterback ready for the moment. So Texas has got plenty of time to get it straight. They're not, like I said, they're not going away. Same thing with Alabama. Kalen DeBoer's won a lot of football games, a lot of places, a lot of different ways. And there's a lot of quality kids in that program that if they didn't understand what Alabama football was all about, they certainly learned a valuable lesson and have to wear that because they've got the whole world around them every day. If everybody keeps kissing their ass and telling them how good they are, then probably not. But I don't think that's going to happen on campus. So I expect both of those programs to be back on track and still make the college football playoff.
LSU, very impressive, Mike, with that win at Clemson. And you look at what that defense was able to do. It does seem, at least after 1 week, that Brian Kelly has got it figured out and he's got all of the pieces in place. Tough SEC schedule yet to play, but what were your big takeaways when it comes to LSU, what you saw in Death Valley, and what that potentially means for the Tigers, not only in the conference race, but also the college football playoff?
Well, it wouldn't be me if I didn't take a poke at you guys and ask if this means he's not on the hot seat anymore. I heard that also. Every time I came on, you guys put him on the hot seat.
No, that was Landrum.
That was not Landrum.
Landrum did that.
That was not Landrum.
I didn't do that.
No.
Okay.
No.
No, it wasn't me. I don't know what you're talking about.
No, what are you talking about?
Listen, Brian Kelly, like Kalen DeBoer, has won a lot of places. He won at Grand Valley State. He won at Cincinnati. He won at Notre Dame before Notre Dame opened up the coffers like they have now with Marcus Freeman. The guy's a good coach, and he identified some good talent in the portal. And LSU went out there and spent some money. We're coming back to the same narrative, guys. You spend the money. You've got to spend the money. And LSU spent the money. And Harold Perkins is back from injury. They got a guy named Whit Weeks that plays with his hair on fire. He may not be, Lawrence Taylor in the NFL, but right now he drives that team. They've solved the questions they had about their defense. It was a heroic stand at the end. They turned away Clemson and Death Valley. Inside the 20, pretty experienced quarterback in Klubnik. Now, that said, Dabo lost his best receiver in the first quarter, so let's put an asterisk next to this. And Alabama fans will tell you how good they would have been if they'd had Jameson Williams in the national title game. You lose your number one, it makes a difference, especially if it happens in game, and you've built a game plan around it. But that was a big win for LSU. I believe that was their first season opening win since 2019. It's hard to believe, but I think that's true. But again, winning is half of it, but sustaining success is the other half. And some programs do that better than others. And that comes down to your leadership. Like, for example, how well will Florida State sustain their success? Can they play that hungry every week, or was that their Super Bowl? You know, how well can LSU sustain the success? You know, there's a lot of questions to be answered in all of college football. Week one was a good indicator. We can erase all those preseason polls and projections. We've got something to base this on. Right now, after week one, LSU looks like the most complete and best team in the SEC after 1 week.
Well, Mike, I did want to ask you then about your team, the Georgia Bulldogs, because I know they took on Marshall, got a big win there. Gunnar Stockton, 4 total touchdowns on the day. What were your impressions overall of Georgia, but specifically with Gunnar Stockton, because I know a lot of people had some question marks about him coming into the year?
Yeah, Georgia's the team I cover. My team is, my 2 daughters and son. That's my team. But yeah, the team I cover, I thought that 45-7 was a little misleading. Georgia punted on 3 of their first 6 possessions against Marshall, a team that had 78 guys that went in the transfer portal and had the lowest retention rate in the FBS ranks at 27%. You might say, well, they scored, touchdowns on the other 3 drives. Well, yeah, but they needed a 4th down conversion on each of their first 2 touchdown drives to sustain those drives. I don't think Kirby's going to be going for it when he plays Tennessee and it's 0-0, or when he's playing Alabama and it's 0-0. I think he's kicking a field goal in those situations. And then on their 3rd touchdown drive, they blocked the punt and they only had to drive a 20-yard field. So, you're talking about, and they did kick a field goal on their 7th drive. So you're talking about on 7 drives needing to convert 4th down twice and one of them being 20 yards. I was not blown away by the offense. I think the offensive line has some things to sort out. We knew that was going to be the case. Now, Zachariah Branch is the real deal. I think he had 96 or 97 yards in 3 receptions. 2 of those passes were caught behind the line of scrimmage. I'd say pursuit in the SEC is probably going to be better than it was at Marshall. Probably not going to have all those yards after the catch in an SEC game, but the guys got quicks and can catch the ball. Their best running back was a 185-pound guy named Dwight Phillips. Showed a lot of speed and burst. Outran a lot of Marshall linebackers. How's that going to play out in the SEC? I don't know. And Gunnar Stockton, ran the ball effectively. He was their leading rusher. How many SEC games do we expect Gunnar Stockton to be the leading rusher in? So Georgia, to me, has a lot to work on. Their backup quarterback, Ryan Puglisi, came in, and he threw some dimes now. Their backup quarterback's got an arm. I don't know where he's at in his knowledge of the offense, but he looked good. So Kirby's got answers. Kirby's got another practice game against Austin Peay before they go to Rocky Top. So Georgia's got talent, but they're going to have to coach him up. He's got a pretty new roster. I think he said 54% of his guys were first or second year players.
That is Mike Griffith. Also, you can go to Gulf Shores Getaway AL on Instagram. And, Mike, I know the weather is going to be absolutely gorgeous the rest of the fall, and I know there's probably a few opportunities for folks to get down there on your property.
Yeah, I always offer that discount on the show. I always offer people 25% off. And even though this is still prime time with the weather being ideal down there, I'm really looking forward to a WJOX listener cashing in and, having an opportunity to provide some feedback publicly and tell people what they think of it and take advantage of that opportunity being in your listening audience. So things are going well at the condo. Everybody's enjoying it, but really hope we get some folks from WJOX to go down there. Pat, I appreciated you going down there, and I'm glad you had a good time, and I'm hoping other people will take advantage of that opportunity because, to me, like I told you, that's something that I really appreciate, having a property in Alabama like that to, share with people and have their families take it down there. I think that's pretty cool. But right now, my focus, honestly, guys, is this SEC, man, and this Big Ten. I think there's a bigger story here with the Big Ten buying the SEC's best players. They're becoming the best in college football right before our eyes. And I don't know how the SEC is going to fight that off with all the parity they have. That's part of the problem. Everybody's good, It's not top heavy, and everybody being good. It sounds like a good problem to have, but at the end of the day, Michigan, Ohio State are able to buy Alabama's best players. I mean, something's not right, and it certainly showed itself this last Saturday.
They need somebody like you that was born in the South, has covered the SEC, attended a Big Ten school, just to tell them don't make that mistake.
Oh, come on now. Listen, Kalen DeVore is a good football coach, but listen, hey, it just goes to show you it takes more than being a good football coach. I mean, there's a reason when Nick Saban took the job, he demanded those facility upgrades and did what he had to do to get players, okay? Same thing with Kirby Smart. First thing he did, they made sure Georgia built a new facility and started getting some good players. So let's not kid ourselves, okay? It comes down to players. You can be a great coach, but if you don't have the players, you're not going to win at the highest level. And if you're in the SEC, you're playing at the highest level. So that's my spiel for the day. I think maybe this is a lesson to Alabama that if they want to stay at the big boy table, they better reach into their pockets and find ways to keep guys like Julian Sayin and Haynes and Caleb Downs in their program, because those guys are difference makers.
That is Mike Griffith. You can follow his work at dognation.com, part of the AJC. Mike, enjoy the rest of the week, and we look forward to catching up with you next Tuesday.
Oh, one other thing. Carson Beck is at Miami right now, so this is not just an Alabama thing. This is college football. Just for the record.
Right. You're right. Thank you, Mike. Appreciate it as always.
All right, guys. Have a good one.
You too. That is Mike Griffith. He joined us on the Higginbotham Hotline. You deserve solutions that are built for you. Higginbotham is your one-source solution for insurance, financial, and HR services.
Well, the college football discussion continues. Our buddy Nick Kelly will talk about Alabama, what's going on, what's the temperature in Tuscaloosa following the loss in Tallahassee. As we continue live from Social Taco in Homewood, the doors open 30 minutes from right now. Come and join us, which should be a festive, fun Tuesday on Jox.
It is 10:33. We're live at Social Taco. It is a Taco Tuesday. We're located on the Taco Terrace, so come on up and see us. We'll be here until 2 o'clock. Joining us on the Higginbotham Hotline, covers the Alabama Crimson Tide for AL.com. Our good friend Nick Kelly joins us now on the program. Well, Nick, how was the trip to Tallahassee despite the game?
It was good, but, yeah, certainly not what I or many others expected making that trek down there. So it's been more of a grind than I expected it to be for week one.
All right, so let's get into it. At what point, as you're sitting there watching the game, did you anticipate, okay, there's problems brewing here, this is going to be a ball game? At what juncture did you feel that way?
I would say the second Florida State drive,
Okay.
but really I think it was I guess right before that, was that the Talty missed kick, the 53-yarder? I can't remember the exact order, but it was either, I believe that was right before. And, when he missed that kick, you just knew it was trouble because, A, that put them in a bad spot. B, I kind of questioned that decision because he had been inconsistent in camp to put him out there for his first kick being 53 yards. But that the moment Florida State went up by a touchdown, I started to really wonder if it was going to be another one of those games because Alabama just hasn't been resilient when that happens on the road. When Alabama gets down on the road, it does not go well. And it proved again that they could not be resilient in that moment.
Nick, there's all kinds of things that we can take away from that game to say that's not what we expected. As we led up in the offseason with the conversation, these are things that we expect from this Alabama team. But if you had to rank as far as most disappointing, something you expected you did not see from this Alabama team last Saturday, what would it be?
100% effort. I mean, that's the easy one to me. The fact that the effort was not very good is so concerning because the idea that they were going to be different this year and they were going to outperform what they did last year, and the guys who didn't want to be here, they're gone. Like, if you don't want to be here, leave. Well, that just gave the sense that this most likely was going to be a team that you weren't going to be questioning the effort. Like, these guys want to be here. These guys want to accomplish this. And the fact that we saw the lackadaisical effort at times was by far, I think, the most concerning thing that could possibly have happened.
So, Nick, you had a great tweet that you brought up, and I know Ryan Williams is always going to get a lot of attention. But you shared this over the weekend, and it's Ryan Williams now has 10 straight games without 100 yards receiving and 4 straight games now without a touchdown catch for the star wide receiver for Alabama. So where are you right now on Ryan Williams? Do we think it was more of, maybe the first half of last season was a little bit of a fluke? Do you think it's maybe a confidence issue? It's more mental for him? Where are you moving forward on Alabama's star receiver that clearly has not shown the spark that he had to start last year?
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure, but I will say this. I do think he can be really special, and I do think he's got the capability of being an incredible player. I know that's not a bold statement based off what we saw against Georgia, but when you look at those numbers, it's like, maybe he's not as good. But I do think he's capable of really big things. I mean, you just talked to – I remember there was a former receivers coach I talked to way back when about just how just special and unbelievable some of the things that Ryan can do, what that is. And to me, it's all still there. It's just, can he put it together and actually put it together on the field on a consistent basis? I mean, he had that huge Georgia game, but has not replicated it since. And so, I think maybe some of it's maturity. I mean, heck, I don't think I would handle all the fame and attention that he's gotten and still always maybe not let complacency slip in. I don't know the exact reason, but again, I hate to play that he's young, but he is 18. He's a young guy, and so I think that maybe that's part of that's learning how to be that kind of professional receiver, if you will, and that comes with all the attention that he's receiving. So, I think he still has high potential, and I'm not down on him long term, but they need more from him. They need better from him because he's capable of it.
All right, Nick, we heard a lot of coach speak this weekend from Kalen DeBoer immediately after the game, heard more yesterday. From the people that you talked to around the program, do they believe that this really is fixable in regards to certain things and the areas of problematic whether it's the effort, whether it's the defensive line or Ty Simpson, are these correctable in Alabama with everything still in front of them? Can they have the success that they thought they were going to have?
Yeah, just based on the people I've talked to, I do think they can get it back on track. Of course, they're discouraged and they're shaking their heads, and there's an element of like, not this again. But I do think they can fix a lot of it. And the biggest reason that I believe them, and the reason I believe they can fix a lot of it, is when your biggest issue is effort. Well, the good news and the bad news about that is that's controllable. You can give more effort. So they can start there, and that'll probably go a long way toward doing what they need to do because the talent is there. I mean, they have the guys. It's not like they have to create this superstar team out of nothing. I mean, it's there. It's just that they're not in a good enough spot, I think, from a effort standpoint, from a physicality standpoint. And so I would have to think that those qualities, those intangibles, really, I mean, they're tangible, that can improve. So we'll see if they actually do it, but I do think that they do have the ability to do it.
How much did you sense as far as irritability yesterday during Kalen DeBoer's press conference? Was that just him following up in one particular instance of just trying to get clarification for a question, or could you sense that maybe following the loss he was not his normal, I guess, chipper self?
Yeah, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I think that was a tough moment and a tough look for him, just because, yeah, it was a quote from – he was being asked something that he said just a few minutes earlier in the press conference. So I do think it was a little bit of a tough moment, but to me I would almost chalk it up more to, I mean, he's got a lot going on right now and a lot in his mind, and he's trying to figure this out. And I think it's just a slip up on his part, and I think it's what it was, and he's probably just distracted by trying to get this straightened out.
So from what you understand, Nick, because this is something that I've heard a lot in the last couple of days, is there a guy or maybe a couple of guys on that team from an accountability standpoint, right? When you see the lackadaisical effort on the field, do you understand or have you heard that there's a guy or a couple of guys on that roster that when that happens, they're the ones that are taking accountability? They're going up to their teammates and saying, why are you not giving effort? Why are you not doing this? Because in the past, obviously in the Nick Saban era, you had a lot of that, right, where you had that great leadership, and you might have been afraid of getting tore up by Nick Saban, but you were also going to be afraid of getting chewed up by your teammates. Does it feel like there is that guy or group of guys on this Alabama team, or is that something that they're going to have to identify moving forward in the season now?
Yeah, they were missing one of them. Tim Keenan was not at the game. He was back home healing from his lower body injury. So, yeah, without him to be there, not only for what he could do on the field, but also what he could do from a leadership standpoint, he was not there. I mean, Jam Miller's on the sideline, but he's not quite as vocal, I think, quite as much as a Tim Keenan type. Like, Tim Keenan is a full-bore leader. Another guy that I think has started to do more of that, but he also just hasn't had a ton of playing time, is Ty Simpson. Like, you would hear in the camp period where he would get after guys at scrimmages and really blast them when they false started or they did something that, that made a mistake. So I think he's gaining his voice more and more. And, of course, when you're only making your first start, I think it'll only turn up, so to speak, from here, the volume on that. But I think that, yeah, Ty is one of those key people. And you saw it from his effort. I mean, you can say what you want about Ty's game. You can't say that he gave anything but his full effort. And so I think he was leading in that way. But, yeah, I think he's going to be a key guy moving forward. But they really missed Tim Keenan.
Nick Kelly joins us from AL.com for a couple more minutes, covers the Alabama Crimson Tide. Players will be available to the media coming up in just a little bit as Nick is heading to Tuscaloosa. All right, so let me ask you this. It was the number one question that I started getting, and I tweeted this out during the game. It's the buyout of Kalen DeBoer. As ridiculous as it sounds, there are fans that are clamoring for Alabama to go ahead and make the move. And you and I both know, Nick, that Alabama cannot afford to pay somebody $69.3 million, putting him on the road and buying out assistant coaches and then going and finding whoever you think is going to be the answer to this problem in Tuscaloosa. It's just not fiscally responsible. It can't happen. Greg Byrne has made that perfectly clear that Alabama is not Fort Knox. But my question is about Greg Byrne. When will Greg Byrne, how many more losses before he has the heat turned up on from the Board of Trustees or other members of the Alabama, I guess the fiefdom, in regards to what he has done in bringing in Kalen DeBoer?
It's a good question. I think it's a little bit there's a reason Nick Saban didn't answer hypotheticals, because it gets to tricky territory. But I do think, yeah, I mean, that is the one thing when you make a hire, you're tied to that. Now, I don't think that if Kalen DeBoer goes that Greg would also necessarily go. I don't get that sense. My prediction would be he'd be able to make another hire. But, yeah, I mean, you do ask questions like that. And to your point, Pat, about the buyout, I mean, Alabama needs Kalen DeBoer to work. Greg Byrne needs Kalen DeBoer to work, because it's just going to make everything easier. But financially, yeah, it's not only the buyout that's almost $70 million. It's also the assistant coaches, then the new staff you have to bring in. You have to pay that staff to come and volunteer coach. So you're talking, I mean, at least $80 million that would cost. Right now, when they're trying to find every penny possible, yeah, that's just not doable. So, yeah, Greg Byrne needs it to work, obviously, because he made the hire, but also just because he has to balance that budget right now. And, yeah, it's not an easy thing to pull off.
And just a quick follow-up on that. If this season were to go just off the rails, and I'm talking 3-9, is there a scenario there where you think Alabama would try to at least raise the money perhaps and say, we just made a mistake here, and before we go off into the desert for the next 3 years, we need to make a change? Do you see any scenario like that potentially happening?
I'm not going to completely rule it out. I mean, when there's a will, there's a way, to an extent. But even then, like that's a lot of money.
Yeah. And
there's maybe not still that Texas oil money that was able to pay Jimbo Fisher that insane buyout. So I just, again, I'm not saying it can't happen, it won't happen, but I just think the chance of that buyout happening, I mean, it just would take a lot of cash. And
listen, Nick, I agree with you 100%, and I said that yesterday on the radio show. But we actually had someone text into the show, and it made me think a little bit. Because the person said, is it worth Alabama finding the money to go ahead and pay him off, or is it worth Alabama to be a program that is stuck in the mud for the next 3 to 4 years and become irrelevant in the world of college football? And that kind of got me thinking a little bit. And as you mentioned, when people are motivated, they would like to write some checks. We saw it after Alabama made the Final Four in basketball. All of a sudden, Alabama had enough money for a practice facility and so forth. So that just had me thinking. And, again, I'm not trying to put you in a rough place in regards to giving an opinion on a hypothetical like a Nick Saban, but it did have me think that is it worth the potential if Alabama does go to the wayside of 3-9? Does Alabama go ahead and do whatever is necessary to make sure they do not become irrelevant in the SEC?
Yeah, I mean, that's a fair question to ask right now. And I don't know that I have the answer, but I think that and so many other questions right now are valid. And whether that happens, I mean, I still, as tough as that first game looked, I'm still not ready to make Alabama a 3-9 team. But, yeah, if they keep playing like that, then no, the season is not going to go well, and there are going to have to be changes made, whether it's at the top or whether it's other places. I mean, that's just the reality of this business. When you don't produce, changes have to be made. So, yeah, we'll see what happens.
That is Nick Kelly. You can follow his work there at al.com. Nick, always appreciate you joining us for a few minutes as things got a little bit more interesting than we probably thought it was going to be after the weekend. But, hey, makes going to work fun every day, right?
It certainly makes it interesting, that's for sure. And I will say, I don't think we heard a single thing about ULM yesterday in the press conference, in those press conferences, which does not surprise me. But, yeah, at least potentially a good chance to rebound and start getting on the right track. And with the way last year went, I'm convinced that Alabama is going to lose, games like that Florida State game, and then they'll go beat Georgia on the road or something crazy like that. So.
Yeah,
I still don't know you can write off the whole season, but yeah.
That could right some wrongs for sure.
Yeah.
We'll see, but it should be interesting nonetheless.
Oh, yeah. Hey, Nick, safe travels to T-Town, and we'll talk to you soon.
Appreciate it, guys. Thanks.
All right, thanks. That's Nick Kelly. Good sport. I was not trying to put him in a Nick Saban hypothetical type situation. But
it's a fair question.
But these are the people, I mean, you saw it on the text line yesterday. Yeah. I mean, that was the thing. People were like, $69.3 million. Would you be willing to go ahead and find the money and say, okay, we made a mistake, let's punt this, or do you want to be held hostage to this contract over the course of the next few years and become completely irrelevant in the world of college football?
Well, because of the dynasty and the program that's been built over time,
Yeah.
there's questions. You don't ask that question about other SEC programs. A lot of other SEC programs, if they're in Alabama's situation right now. But it's a fair question when you're asking about Alabama.
Yeah. So, all right, we'd love to hear from you. We have been loaded up with guests the first 48 minutes of the show. We'd love to hear from you. 1-800-239-WJOX, the Courtesy GMC text line, 205-834-9450. More from Social Taco on Jox.
Welcome back in. We're in the Terrace. That means it's Tuesday, live at Social Taco here in Homewood next to City Hall. SocialTaco.bar if you want to peruse the menu before you come in for the mix and match tacos, the Mexican pizzas, the burritos, the quesadillas, and so much more.
Chicken feathers.
Chicken feathers, get started. How about adding some bacon to your guacamole if you're feeling crazy like Conrad is today with all that stuff on his face?
Well, I'll be busy eating crow, so I don't know how much time I'll have for chicken feathers, but I'll try to squeeze some in.
Yeah. You know what goes great with that crow? Some of their wonderful dipping sauces. that
That's
they
what I've
make
heard.
all here in-house at Social Taco. We appreciate our friends at Social Taco. Don't forget about brunch on the weekends, 10 to 2:30. Conrad, if Alabama keep playing this way, brunch on Saturday, you come and enjoy. As Alabama's playing, you don't have to worry about it. Just fellowship with friends, right? SocialTaco.bar for more information.
All right, let's go to the phones, 1-800-239-WJOX. Let's go to Oxford, Alabama, a beautiful part of the state. And Dan joins us. Hey, Dan.
Good morning, gentlemen. How are you all doing? I wish I could, being a diehard Alabama fan, as a matter of fact, you're speaking to old school Alabama. Let me explain. I go back to 1958. My late cousin was Dr. Pat Trammell, a quarterback 61 team for Coach Bryant.
Oh, wow.
And let me, just a moment if I may, let me send my personal condolences and sympathies to the family of Leroy Jordan. Leroy was a great guy and a great football player and a credit to the University of Alabama. And we're gonna miss Leroy, believe me. But I have a question for you all about the NIL, if I may.
Sure.
You have 11 on offense and 11 on defense, but not every one of those players receive money from the NIL for a contract with a third party. So theoretically, think about this for a moment. Theoretically, your left tackle may be lining up on offense with a contract making big bucks, and the right tackle over there may not be getting anything. Can this not cause a rift in team chemistry?
Yes.
Undoubtedly, yes.
Yes.
I mean, I know you're not supposed to talk about salaries. I mean, I'm a former HR professional, and that was one thing that was emphasized everywhere I ever worked. You didn't talk about money, but it happens, especially among kids in locker rooms.
There's no doubt. It happens. It happens in every locker room. Kids, Jim, you think about it, 18, 19, 20 years old, you get a big deal. Maybe it's life-changing money, more money than you've ever seen in your life. Yeah, that word gets around pretty quick in that building.
Okay, well, that puts another pressure on Coach DeBoer and his staff to deal with that. And, I admit, I'm totally disgusted. I'm more of a defensive-minded individual. I look at defense.
Dan, thank you so much for the call. Hour number 2 straight ahead.